everyone, welcome back to my channel and to today's video, which is going to be my 2024 reading journal flip through. It's the first time that I've completed a reading journal all the way through and I can't wait to show you all the spreads. My 2025 reading journal setup is already up on the channel, so if you want to have a look at what I'm planning to do for 2025, you can check that out. But this one I think is a really good video to look through because it shows you how my spreads came together. I think it gives some really good monthly inspiration as well, so hopefully you'll find something you really enjoy in here. I used an Archer and Olive 8x8 reading journal for 2024 and I loved it. I talk about it a lot in the 2025 video, but I really think that 8x8 square journals are my sweet spot for reading journaling. They give me really good space for spreads. I can have giant book covers. I really love it. I've used maybe 3/4 of the journal. I didn't use some of the back pages, but it wasn't enough for me to do my 2025 setup, which is why I started a new journal for 2025. The actual journal that I have, I'm not sure if they still sell this one, probably not. Archer and Olive journals move very quickly through the shop. This one is in a sort of like mocha latte type light brown and has a really cute postcard design. I wanted this one because it really reminded me of Divine Rivals, which was one of my favourite books of 2023. It is a linen cover and I'm going to be honest, I don't recommend the linen covers. They just attract fluff so easily and like I don't really want to sit there and use a lint roller on my reading journal, and it gets a little bit scuffed around the edges and things. So for 2025 I have a more like plasticky cover and I'm much happy with that. I think it's probably going to be more durable than this one. I did post a mid-year flip through of my reading journal, so I won't go through the beginning spreads too much, but in case you haven't seen that video I will touch on them. So first off, here is my cover page. I did cut out the page that you're meant to use as like your nameplate name because it doesn't fold over properly and it's much nicer to me this way if it lays flat. The stickers that I use throughout my journal are predominantly from Marigona Suli, who is a beautiful artist, predominantly of witches. I love her stickers. I talk about her all the time, but she is really who I use for most of my reading journal setups, and that will be no different for 2025. Any other supplies I use, such as the paper, the stamps, etc., will be linked in a document in the description which says like reading journal favorites. You can check that out and you'll see everything I use for my reading journal, so hopefully that will be a useful resource for you. Moving over to my reading goals, I did okay with my reading goals for 2024. I did just read 100 books, and I have a video that is possibly already up on my channel or coming out, which is on my top 10 favorites, and I will also be doing a video where I rank all of my reads from best to worst, so I'll talk a lot more about that there. My physical TBR did not get under 150 and we'll be addressing that in 2025. If you check out my TBR bingo video, then that's a really useful place for figuring out how I'm going to be dealing with that. I did reduce my NetGalley TBR to 2, very pleased with that. It was a big goal for 2024. I did DNF books if I'm not enjoying, but I think I need to continue to improve on that in 2025, and I talk about that a bit more in the 2025 reading journal video. Just no more than 12 physical books is an absolute embarrassment. It was a little bit out of control, and there's loads of really fun book hauls for you to watch on the channel, but we've got to rein that in for 2025. Another goal I had was just to buy Kindle books at 99p, and I nailed this. I didn't buy a lot of Kindle books, but when I did, they were always on sale. And then I had a goal to read 12 Kindle Unlimited books. I gave up on Kindle Unlimited in the first couple of months of the year. I just felt I didn't need another place to be accessing books. So whilst I crossed that off, I'm okay with it because I stopped paying for something I didn't need. On the right was my reading tracker, which I love it visually. I really do, but I just do not track my reading every day in this way. I am going to hopefully be having a bullet journal in 2025, so maybe I would be able to track this and do one at the end of the year which summarised all of my reading for 2025, but for now everyday tracking is just not for me. Next up, I have my 24 books in 2024 spread, and I read 5 of them. It's embarrassing. I picked basically this side were books I owned physically, this side were books I owned on my Kindle, and I own this one physically as well, but I thought I would read more of these. These are all books I would still like to read. It just for whatever reason didn't work. I didn't have a great reading year in 2024. It was a big year for me. I got married and stuff, so there were other focuses of my life, but my reading was just all over the place. When I look back at the books I read and the lack of progress that was made on any of my reading goals in terms of like finishing series or reading my 24 2024 books or anything like that, I think, what was I doing? I just picked up books completely at random in 2024. So hopefully I'll be a bit more intentional in 2025. And I have my 12 recommendations from 12 friends. I've spoken about this a few times on the channel, but I only read one of them. Thank you, Malika, for recommending A Brush with Love, which is a book I own physically. So at least that was a win. I've redone this for 2025, so have a look at the 2025 reading journal video for that. Next up, I have my Kindle Unlimited TBR. As I said, I dropped Kindle Unlimited very early in the year, so we don't mind that most of this spread is not filled out, although I own a lot of these books physically as well, so that's kind of embarrassing. But I guess at least I read 2 of them. I have one of my favourite spreads, which is my priority series tracker. I'm in the middle of a lot of series, and I would like to film an updated, like, where I'm at with series video for the channel, so let me know if you'd like to see that. But I have some series that I am more motivated to finish than others, or that have been on my TBR for longer and I feel like I need to get through. So this is a really useful spread for just being like, okay, these are the series that you could most get to, where you own the next book in the series, crack on, finish it off. And actually, this is a very motivating spread for me. You can see I finished all the books out there in the Sad Ghost Club, but I've DNF'd that series. It doesn't need a 4th one, but anyway. A 4th one is coming and I will not be reading it. I finished the Deadly End Mysteries by Victoria Walters, and I didn't know I was finishing a series. That was good. I made progress on the Meet Me series by Georgia Toffolo. I do now own number 3 and number 4, so I'm hoping to finish that in 2025. I didn't actually read number 6 of Laura Olympus. I don't know why I coloured that in. I know we're up to number 7 now, and number 8 is coming in 2025. So that is a priority series for 2025. I finished this manga, Beauty and the Beast series. I finished The Intimacy Experiment. These 2 I could have made progress on and didn't, and that's a little bit embarrassing. This series, which is the Athena Club series by Theodora Goss, this book is, the number 2 was just too long. It was about 700 pages. And whilst number 3 isn't as long, I feel so burnt out still, even though it's like nearly 2 years since I read the second one. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's on audio rather than physical, so I don't mind so much. I was up to date with Scandar, and then A.S. Stedman brought on number 4 because this author releases books at such a relentless pace. But I love Scandar. This will get up to date in 2025. I finished the Love Wager duology. I finished the Unfortunately Yours duology. I realised yesterday when I was filling out this tracker that actually it's a lot easier to finish a duology, isn't it, than anything else. Could have made progress with Belladonna, but didn't, but it's on audio, I don't mind so much. It's an embarrassment. I haven't read Ruthless Vows yet. And then I thought I had finished the Thursday Motor Club series, and then I saw that Richard Osman is bringing out number 5, which is fine. I'm not mad about that. It's fine. This is one of my favourite spreads, and I've recreated it in my 2025 journal, which is my physical TBR. I put a space for every book, and then I print out the book covers for when I've physically read the book. It's very humbling, isn't it, to realise? And I read predominantly physical books, and we'll talk about my stats at the end of the video. I did read predominantly physical books, but it seems like actually maybe not, at least not compared to the size of my TBR. So I really hope that this will be more successful in 2025. I did have this bit here, which was to write down the physical books I purchased because, you know, I had a goal to only buy 12 physical books. And this list was even longer than 12. But I stopped tracking when I hit 85 books then, did this house, in 2024. So, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But also, we are going to be addressing it for 2025. Here you can see a few more pages. As I said, still not great. This looks great though. So I love it when it's in a series, actually. It's really satisfying. So maybe I'll find that motivating in 2025. And then I was adding books that I purchased during the year to here. You can see that I did a lot better with books that came into this house than I did with books already in it. Over here, we have my anticipated releases spread, and I have recreated this in my 2025 journal. I really like this spread, and actually I did a really good job in the main with new releases. There's a few that I didn't get to, like Emily Henry. I really would have liked to have read The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling, but it didn't get released in The Works, which is a cheap bookshop here in the UK. And I don't know why, because I got the other 2 from there. So that was annoying, because that's one of my favourite series. I should have read the Tessa Bailey books. I should have read the Sarah Adams book. But, you know, in the main, I did okay with this. And I have now read Starfire, actually. I don't have a pen in here. I was just going to mark it off. But annoyingly, I don't have any of my pens in this room. My entire pen pot is in my living room. But anyway, I did read Starfire as well. Next up, we have my NetGalley spread. So as you know, I had a goal to read down my NetGalley TBR to 2. I did successfully do that, apart from the fact that the 2 that I didn't read, I then forgot to download. So that is really annoying. But anyway, I did do really well with this, and yeah, you can see I'm like very happy with, like, I didn't need to fill in these 3, and that was also good that I didn't need to, because my aim is not to just keep reading NetGalley books. My aim actually is to just be more mindful with my NetGalley requesting, to only request books where I'm really excited for the book. And it's not that I don't want to read ARCs, because I actually really would love to read ARCs. I would be happy to be sent ARCs for books. It's just I need to not be reading anything for the sake of reading it. Though saying that, these were all books I was really excited about. Like Amy Lee, like finishing off this series, I was so excited when I got the arc for this. So, and like, I really loved Megan Clawson's first book. I've read a lot of books by Victoria Walters before. Fool Me Once was a book I was really excited for. Next of Kin was a book I was really excited for. So actually, on reflection, I think I did request books that were sensible books for me to request. I just requested too many, and it just got a little bit on top of me. But I smashed through it. My focus at the beginning of 2024 was to get that NetGalley TBR down. I did, and I didn't request anything else. But maybe we can go back to a bit more of a balance in 2025. Next up, I have my favourite reads spread. So these are not actually my favourite reads. They're really my favourite reads from each month. It's just really interesting to see how my reading goes over the year, because here we have 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. And then we have a run of not 5 stars, 5-star, run of not 5 stars, 5-star. So it's really interesting to just see that actually, you know, I don't get a 5-star all the time. I don't get a 5-star every month. But it was fun to like pick a favourite book even if I didn't have a 5-star of each month. So I'm really excited to do this again in 2025. Next up, I have my Aurelium spread. So I didn't do any other magical readathon spreads in 2024. And as it stands, I'm not planning to do any in 2025 because I think it's just too much for me. It focuses down my reading too much because the prompts can be quite specific. I don't really read enough in the months that magical readathon happens. So I feel like right now I can't keep up with it, which I find really sad because I think that the readathon is amazing and I love watching everyone else's videos about magical readathon, but I have to accept I have limitations, and I think right now that is one of them. I printed this off with the best of intentions that I was going to do the year of choices, like year in LDR spread. I did not do this. I added some book covers at the end of the year after the fact to prove that I could have done it. Which I guess is something to sort of like bear in mind for myself, is like I could have done this, but I didn't want to be forced to read a particular book in a particular month that led me a certain way. So I won't be doing this again, even though I do think that the completed spread of this does look cute. Then we have my bingo spread. So this is the bingo board from hell from Literary Diversions. I really, really love Leanne's channel. If Leanne puts a video out, you can bet I'm gonna watch it. And I love watching her bingo spreads. But I think if the bingo is the only thing you're doing, or like your main sort of like reading challenge, it would be easier to keep up with it. But I just found it really difficult to keep on top of. I didn't know how to track it. I'm assuming Leanne does not track it in a journal. I'm sure she tracks it in a spreadsheet. I couldn't track the like repeating nature of things. I kept forgetting when I'd filled this out as opposed to when I hadn't filled it out. So I just gave up on it. It's fine. And then I also have this one, which is a romance bingo board, which my friend Steffi sent me. And you can see that I listed the books here. I did pretty well with this. This was just a fun thing. It's very easy just whenever I'm going through my reading journal to be like, okay, what books have I recently read, and to cross them off. I didn't get any rewards for getting bingo. We've got 2 bingos here. There were no rewards for it. It was just fun to see what tropes I read from. I've recreated my own version of this in my 2025 journal, swapping out some of the prompts that I know I'll never read because I just don't read this type of book. But I would love to complete it just for fun in 2025, but we'll see. Then we start my monthly spreads. I'll flick through the first few relatively quickly in case you watched my mid-year video, and if you hadn't, maybe check that out if you want to see me talk about the spreads in more detail. Each of the months I have a sticker from Maragon Asuli, and then I use that sticker sheet as the colour theme for that month, as obviously the centerpiece for the month, and then I have the stickers going throughout the spread. I love it, and as I say, I'll be doing similar for 2025. Papers here are just, that's the same pack I've been using throughout with the scripts just turned over, and then these patterns, I just find a pattern on Google that I think matches the spread and I print it out and I trim around it and stick it down basically. I then have a calendar on the right hand side where I track basically the number of days a book took me to read, which I only do after the fact, but it's just really fun to see how long a book took. And then I have these like library cards at the bottom. I won't be taking these through to 2025, not because I don't like them, but just because it's an additional thing to fill out that I think is just unnecessary. I then do also track my YouTube and Instagram spreads. This honestly, watching my Instagram stats, like I hope this is reassuring for some of you. My Instagram stats have grown by about 10 for the entire course of the year. And no, I'm not the most active on Instagram, but I'm not active. So Instagram is just a difficult platform. I'm clearly not doing things in the right way. I'm much more interested in my YouTube growth. And even that has not been massive, but it's still nice to see that there has been some growth because I have put out quite a lot of videos. Then after I do the cover page spread, I think I must have stuck those together. That feels very strong. I then have the covers of the books I read, and I have these star rating stickers. The star rating stickers are from Plannerface. I PR for Plannerface, so you can use my code CAT to save 10% on your orders and add my name in notes to seller to pick up a seasonal freebie. I will put the stickers down. I put some overall stats which slightly changed because I wasn't tracking how many days I read, but so that doesn't always fit. So I'm actually going to be moving that to this space, I think, in 2025, because as I say, if I'm getting rid of this, I will have some space. This does not always work on this page, so I think that feels sensible. And on the right hand side, I have all my graphs. So I have exactly the same 9 graphs the whole way through the year, and they are the same graphs that I'll be using in my end of year stats as well, just to see how many different things I read or different formats, etc. through the year, and then also to see what I did at the end of the year. I actually track all of this in a spreadsheet, which is a combination of a spreadsheet from Hardback Hoarder and Covers by Cassidy. Now my sort of own edited version that works for me. That spreadsheet generates all of these graphs for me, and I just recreate them in the journal. I could print them out, but I find it fun, even with my terrible colouring, to put them in myself. I do also have some spreads that are for specific books, but honestly, I stop this as we go through the year. I am much more motivated in the first quarter to do things than I am later in the year. It's just how things always go. And also, I didn't want to push myself to do spreads for books if I didn't have any creative motivation for them. You can see I've not written about the books. I always write a review on Goodreads, but I'm not interested in recreating the reviews in my reading journal. It just is unnecessary writing, to be honest. So really the idea is that I just stick stuff down if I really liked a book and want to flip back to it. But then if I'm not writing about the book, what is the point of doing these spreads? Because all I'm doing is sticking down basically fan art about them, or this is actually art from the artist. So this is an ongoing journey, I think, for 2025. I really like the Lore Olympus spread because it's genuinely useful, because I find the Lore Olympus books have so many characters. So this is really useful for me to see like actually who is who and who's in a relationship with who, etc. I really like how I did this line at the bottom with the dot grid pens. That's cute. I might need to recreate that. February is a love theme. Very cute. It's very pinks and browns. I read a lot in February, so that looks really satisfying. If I could hit 15 books every month, I think I would be absolutely thrilled. I then did a double page spread for Daisy Jones and the Six, because there's a lot of photos that you can find online from the Amazon Prime TV show. Not that I've watched that, but I put all of the characters in here. And then I found some fan art. So it's a cute spread. It just doesn't necessarily mean anything, but actually it is really cute. So maybe they do serve a purpose just for cuteness. March is a spring theme. I read a lot in March, so I had to fold over my library card, which is really fun. It meant that I did a double page spread for March because I had so many books. We had to kind of go over to this page, and then I DNF'd 4 books, and so I did write a summary of those, honestly, just to fill the page, but it is also useful to kind of go back and remember why I DNF'd. I then had to do my graphs on this side, and so I had a 1-page spread left. So I did a spread dedicated to Bride by Ali Hazelwood, one of my favourite books and one of my favourite authors. But these do not look good together because the stuff from Bride is so dark. So yeah, I don't love how this turned out, but it's fine. And then I have a double page spread for The Martian, which I've actually updated to 5 stars. I've actually re-rated quite a few of my books from 2024. I find rating books really hard. Honestly, part of me wishes I didn't have to rate books at all. And I could not rate them, but you know, sometimes you do want to rate them. So at the moment I do still rate them, but I do allow myself to go through and change ratings if I reflect on a book differently in the future. I haven't necessarily gone through and updated that in my reading journal though. So it will be reflected in my end of year stats, and it's reflected on Goodreads. It's not reflected in here. But this was one of my favourite books. I listened to it on audio and it was such an immersive experience, and I just thought it would make for a really cute spread, which I was right. It did make for a really cute spread. Then we have April, which is this like quite Halloween-y witch, but a lot of witches have Halloween connotations. So some of the spreads had to be Halloween-y even earlier in the year. I included pictures of tabbing Flawless because this was the first book I ever tabbed, and it was just one of my favourite experiences to tab this. I had so much fun picking out my tabs. I then, because I'm me, bought about 1,000 tabs and I've only tabbed one other book this year, but that's so unbelievably cat. I've not included star rating stickers there. Okay, I'll try and remember to go back and do that, but everything else I have for my journal is, for once, in a different room to the room I'm in. For May, we have this dark academia theme, and this is actually my entire theme setup for 2025, if you want to check that out. This is so cute. I read a lot in May as well, which is amazing because I got married at the end of May. June is terrible, I'm warning you now, but May was still amazingly really good. And at this point, we've seen all of the book spreads because there were just no other books that inspired me enough to want to do a spread about them. I love my June theme. It's such Wizard of Oz vibes, in my opinion. It's like the scarecrow in the sunflower field. I love it. I love yellow and green as a combo. That was definitely part of my wedding colour scheme as well. So I really liked that. But it was an absolutely shocking reading month. I think I was just very, like, post-wedding blues are actually a real thing. And so it was just a bit of a struggle in June. So I only read 2 books. So I had obviously a lot of space here. So I printed off just this giant La Belle Sauvage image from the play, because I did watch the play in 2023, I think, and the stats are so pointless because it's either 1 or 2. I think because it's yellow and green it still looks cute. Then participated in Final Book Support Group run by Steph Loves. I don't participate in this every time because honestly I can't read that many books in the space of like a week or a weekend. I kind of need it to take place over a whole month. So, and I think this one was a whole month, and I know Steph doesn't want to do them as monthly readathons anymore. If I have no other plans, I can maybe read 1 or 2 books in a weekend, and that just doesn't satisfy when you have like 9 points on a bingo board. So maybe I'll try and do my own one, or like take one of her readathons but do it for the whole month or something like that, or just do a focus on finishing series at some point. Because this actually was very motivating. Not that I crossed anything off on the bingo board, I've just realised. And again, I have no pens, so I can't even do that. But I do really like how this spread came out. I had a category for final books, a category for books where I could get up to date in the series, but this actually was a finishing the series, I just didn't realise. And then books where I could make progress in the series. It's a really, really cute spread. I really like how this came out, so maybe I can do some of my own more readathons like that in 2025. Then I have my July spread. This is in the same colour palette as the sets that I'm using in my setup because I love pink and brown together. And this was my favourite set of like all of the Maragona Sully sets. So I used it in July for the middle of the year, and it's my birthday month, so I felt like I deserved to have my pink and brown, my pink and brown set. I did pretty well actually looking at the books that I read in July, and I love how that stats page looks. That's my favourite stats page, I think, that colour combo. Then Steph Loves, I'm a big fan of Steph's channel. Steph also did a literature readathon, which is basically a romance readathon. And this was the only one I really took part in. I don't think I participated in any others. I think this one was a week long, but I maybe did it over the course of a month, or maybe I didn't do any of it. Because actually looking at this, I don't think I read a single one of these for this readathon. But the spread looks really cute. This drawing is also by Maragona, but it's not a sticker. I just found it on her Instagram and I cut it out and like trimmed around it and printed it off and put it on here, and I just found a pattern on Google. I printed off for the background, which I think looks so cute. So again, I did a really cute spread that I didn't use, which is just the definition of me. I have created my own TBR bingo for 2025, which I think is quite reminiscent of this setup. Then we get into August, which is a mermaid theme, very fun for August. I love this colour palette. It's so pastel, which is so beautiful. And I read 5 books in August. August is a very busy work month for me, so not a lot of reading happens. But I did read Caraval, which is by Stephanie Garber. It's a really, really fun fantasy series where there's like this kind of like magical circus carnival thing, which is really cool. I would love to read the others in the series, but we'll see what happens. I did tab this book, so I put a picture in of my tabs, and then I just found some fan art of Scarlett and Julian and just stuck that down. I think it kind of ruins the aesthetic of that page, but it's fine. I had to fill the page, and then I had to write a little bit of a summary about it to fill the space. And I've written that it's been really fun to fangirl over this season with my friend Beth from Beth Plans, because Beth, she's done a lot better than me and read all the books and all the Once Upon a Heart books. So she's just waiting for me to catch up so that I can speak to her about them. So yeah, really hope I can get to that in 2025. And I have this, which was my holiday TBR. So I went on honeymoon in September for 2 weeks to Greece, and I had all these great ideas that I was going to read a million books. Even though the first week it was so relentless. Our first week we did stuff every single day. We were getting up at like 6 a.m. to do these day trips. But the second week we were spending entirely at a resort, and I thought, yeah, we're just going to be by the pool and I'm going to be reading all the time. And I read a bit, but not a lot. As you can see, I only read 2 of the books, but I prioritised the 2 books set in Greece because we were in Greece. Not that these were books I needed to read. You know, when you kind of realise that the like desire to read something for like the aesthetic or the reason ends up being more important than reading a book you actually wanted to read. Like, that is definitely what happened to me here. But now at least I've read them. I've read the Greece books. They're done. And you know, it's fine. We can move on from that chapter in my life. But I think I have to accept that actually I don't read a lot when we go on holiday, even though I think I'm just going to be sat by the pool all the time. But there's other things going on. I was ill while we were on holiday as well, so it happens. But this spread is so cute, and I love that I put in like the image of Santorini in here. Like, the spread is adorable, even if I didn't read the books. And for September, we start to get into the autumnal witches, lots of pumpkins. This one's really cute. I don't think that the patterns are a very good aesthetic mix really for this spread, but I remember I really struggled to find a pattern that would work. I had to recolor some patterns a few times, but anyway, it's cute enough. And then these spreads are so random. So this was my summary page. You can see I read 5 books, the 2 Greece books. So I included a picture, which I meant to put on Instagram and I don't think I ever did actually, which is poor because I spent ages like getting this cute aesthetic of like this book with the background of the resort. So I put that there, and then I didn't know what to put in this space, so I found this cute fan art by Danny Edmonds Danny about the Richard Osman series up until the 3rd one anyway, and so I just stuck that down because I thought they've put a lot of time and effort into that, so it can go into my reading journal. Then I have October. This is one of my favourite witches from Aragon Asuli, and I think that this is so aesthetically pleasing, and it's ruined by the fact I read barely any books. So this calendar looks completely pointless. I was really very sick when we came back from honeymoon, like had to go to hospital sick, so everything shows about what went wrong in October. I think I've saved it by putting 3 books from 12th Night by Alex and Farrell Falmouth, because these aesthetically really work with October. The book is very purple, so I think this looks really cute. And I really like My Mechanical Romance, which is the first YA that Alexa released. I didn't like 12th Night as much, but enough that I could aesthetically put it with the spread. Then we have November. So this is very autumnal. I love this one as well, but I don't like this pattern. I think it's too busy. The sticker doesn't have enough like pop, so that's a bit of a shame. Also, you can see that I took like a random break. I like read 3 novellas in a day and then had a load of time off. It's been a funny time, honestly, the last few months. I think that this looks pretty cute though, but after sticking it down, I realised it's the first time I've ever put the books on an angle. They've always been like straight before, so I don't really know why I did that, but I still think it looks really cute, and I love seeing all of these book covers together. That's like so satisfying. Then I have December, which is a Christmassy one, which again is very cute, and this was one of the times where I actually did put the words facing out because they're quite like Christmassy, the recipes that are on there. Had a much better reading month in December than the last few months. I read 16 books, which is I think maybe the most actually of all of the months, or at least tied. So this was too big, so I had to fold that over a little bit. But it's really hard when I read a load of novellas or short books back to back to fit them all in my calendar. I think it looks fine, but it's maybe not like the most aesthetic thing you've ever seen. I also, because I was doing my December spreads and my end of year pages batching, it took me from the day I'm filming this from about 2:30, 3 o'clock until about 11:30 to finish. I was so relentlessly working on them, and it means that there are a few mistakes, there are a few tip X's in there, but it's okay. So, you know, it happens. But I ripped off a sticker and then started highlighting. It just looked terrible. So I stuck over some sticker paper there, but I actually think it looks fine. We have all my books for December and I really struggled to fit them in. I print all of my books at the same size for these spreads, regardless of how many I read. So I have like a cheat sheet on my Google Docs in like the header that tells me what the height should be of the books, depending on what I'm printing them off for. And I think for this spread, I really should have amended it because this just looks awful, to be honest. It's fine, but it looks awful. And the star rating stickers from Planner Face were just like a little bit too big based on how much I read. Like, they look so cute here, not cute here, so cute here. Anyway, it's fine. And then these are my December stats. So let's get into my end of year stats. I'm really happy with just being able to review my reading in this way. As I say, I do have a spreadsheet where I track all of this, but it was really nice to reflect on everything in my reading journal. So I read exactly 100 books. It was a real slog, I'm going to be honest, to get to 100 books. In December and November, I read so many novellas. I read all of those Amazon novellas, which is 11 novellas. I read 4 Worst Witch books, which are kids' books, which take like an hour or 2 hours to listen to on audio. Like, it was just a real relentless run to 100, and I need to try and not do that. So I'm not even setting a reading goal for 2025, at least as it stands at the beginning of the year. I read 29,575 pages. I think for 100 books, that's maybe not a lot, but it sounds like a lot to me. And so I'll go with it, even though I think a lot of those were short books. This is where you can see the number of books that I read per month. I love seeing this in bar graph form. So my best month was March with 17, but December was up there. It's so interesting to see how my reading varies per month, where we have some so super low months and some much higher. So fascinating to see it this way. This is where you can see the number of books that I gave each rating. So I do use half stars in my ratings. I mostly rated books 3 and 4 stars, which I think makes sense. You know, you don't really want to be reading a lot of books that you're rating lowly. You want to be DNFing them realistically. So I'm quite happy to see that. But I would really like to see an upturn in 5 stars in 2025, because I only had 10 5-star books and 2 of those were books I rated 5 stars only right at the end of the year. So I would like to sort of address why it is I'm only rating a handful of books 5 stars, and hopefully I can read some more 5-star books in 2025. Rating overall average was 3.5. I would love it if that was up closer or in the 4s for 2025. My favourite book was Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. My least favourite book was The Abandoned Empress. I talk a lot more about that in other videos if you want to check that out. I also had 8 books that I didn't rate, either because they are much older children's books that just felt odd to rate. They're not for me. I wasn't born in that era either, or you know, I was growing up in that era, it just felt weird to rate them, or it was books that I just couldn't rate for other reasons. And again, I talk about that a lot more in other videos. I did a dedicated spread for all of my 5-star reads. I have a separate video on this, but I thought it was just really cute to see them all together. And we start to get into my actual stats. So for genres, I read 50, exactly half, romances, which, yeah, I'm a romance reader. It's just the easiest book for me to pick up. But you know what I found really interesting when I was doing my 5-star reads for 2025? In terms of actual, like, what I would call just romance, that's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I've got to really think about that for 2025. Am I a romance reader, or am I just somebody who is reading romance because it's the easier thing to read and because it gets you closer to 100 books because they're 300 pages, as opposed to an epic fantasy, which maybe I'd enjoy it more. Well, there's no epic fantasy here, so let's ignore that. But, you know, maybe I'd enjoy them more, but I'm so obsessed by hitting the large goals over the quality goals. Something to think about, isn't it? It's really made me think. In terms of others, I read 4 sci-fi books, 1 thriller. Thrillers are really not for me. This one's my mum's friend and who I'm really close to, so I wanted to read her book, but thrillers are not for me. Only 2 biography memoirs, which I'm so surprised by because 2023 was like the year of the biography for me, but maybe I felt biographied out. I read 1 classic, 13 contemporaries, 15 fantasy, which is pretty good, but a lot of them were The Worst Witch. So that's why you're not really seeing any epic fantasy feature here, because I did not read any. 6 fantasy romance, a category that I do sometimes find hard to categorize. 2 historical and 6 mystery. So this is quite an interesting split, but that romance is, yeah, it's very, very interesting for me to see this. The colouring is terrible. I'm just warning you now. It's a big space to colour. I didn't even have a stencil this big. We had a pot of like Rice Krispie cake type things from M&S. So I took the lid off and drew around that because that was the right size. So use what you have, people, use what you have. But yeah, and it looks cute, but the colouring is terrible. So I might not do this kind of colouring next year. Then I have a list of all the authors that I read from. I thought that this would just be really interesting to see how many authors I spread out my reading with over the course of the year. And in terms of the authors I read the most from, so it's the 4s, which is Taylor Jenkins Reid. Love that. Love her stuff. I mean, I've read a lot of her backlist now, but I do love that. And Jill Murphy, who wrote The Worst Witch. And then the 3s is Ali Hazelwood, which I'm very happy with. Love Ali. 3 Christina Lauren, very happy with. Like, I would say they're like my top romance authors. 3 Richard Osman, because I read 3 of the Thursday Murder Club. And then we have a few 2s and then mostly 1s. So this was also really interesting because it kind of made me think, actually, if I'm reading books by authors I love, there should be higher numbers. But obviously they don't, authors only really release like 1 or 2 books a year. So that's not necessarily doable. But I've not read most of an author's backlist, apart from like Ali. So yeah, this was a really interesting project for me. And I think I might see if I can get this number down, the total number of authors down for 2025, but a higher number read from my favourite authors. This stat is so interesting because it's a dead on 50-50 of authors I've read from before and authors that are new to me. Then we have the format read. So I read 68 novels, 14 novellas, which I never thought I would see novellas so high, but those Amazon novellas really coming through for me. 13 graphic novels, which by my standards, I think is quite low, and 5 manga. I own a lot of graphic novels and manga still to read, so we'll see what I can do about that stat next year. And then in terms of the source, so 42 of them were physical, which is good, I think. I'm really happy that I read that many physical books, but it would be great if they were not ones I just bought in that year. 29 of them I listened to on audio. Audiobooks are reading. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Really, really don't. Like, it's so ableist to say that audiobook reading is not reading. It makes me really, really angry. Anyway, that's not what this video is for. So I listened to 29 books on audio. I read 29 books on ebook. I love my Kindle. I meant to do a video about it, but didn't. And I only read 1, which was a mixture, and I could not tell you what one that is. Addie LaRue, I do know. And I have the audience of the books. So 66 of the books that I read were adult, 20 YA. I think that makes sense. Obviously I'm an adult, so I mostly want to read adult books, but I do quite like a YA. I'm moving away from middle grade and children's, but I do still have a few in here. In terms of the difference, like the children's books, I put like The Worst Witch and Mary Poppins, basically. And then anything that I felt was for slightly older children, I've put as middle grade. I've got 2 new adult here. I think new adult is a really complicated category. I never really know what to rate new adult, but sometimes something will just really feel new adult to me, and that's why I put it in that category. And I have my countries read from spread. I'm very lucky that the spreadsheet I have just generates a map for me and fills it in, but I just have to, when I put in a book read in my log, I just select in a drop down where the book was located. That is quite hard for books that are located in multiple places, but I tried to just pick like where the book is mostly based. I'm not trying to read around the world or anything like that. I don't need to introduce any other complicated reading challenges to my life. I just like to see the stat of how many books I read, and I'm not surprised to see that the USA and England are the top, but I do like to see that there are some books from other countries as well. And I have my cover colour. Again, this is just a fun stat to see how many books I read with different colour covers, and blue and purple were definitely the highest, and I think that makes sense, especially blue. looking at my shelves, I have a lot of blue, but also teal is very high. Again, that makes sense. But I read like one grey book, and I don't know what one it is, but I guess grey is maybe not an appealing colour to pick up for a book. Then I have where I acquired the books. So this is just, you know, for me to see like where I'm getting my books from. So 11 were from The Works, which is a very affordable bookshop here in the UK, so we love to see it. 11 were from Waterstones, which is a bookshop in the UK that I do love to support, but the books are a little bit more expensive. Only one from WH Smith, though I don't buy as many books from there. 4 I bought from Amazon, or were bought for me from Amazon. 6 I bought on Kindle, so these are like purchase Kindle. 1 I read on KU, 11 on Prime Reading, that's all of the novellas. 8 I listened to on Spotify. I did have Spotify Premium at the beginning of the year, but I realised I don't need to be paying for Spotify Premium and for Audible. In terms of like the Audible credit system, I think it's just works better than like the number of hours on Spotify. Just it makes it very complicated in terms of rolling books over. I have 21 of the books from Audible, 10 of the books I read on NetGalley, so ARCs. 5 of them I bought from Food and Planet. 1 BookBox book. This is terrible. This number has to go up in 2025. I have so many special editions. This cannot happen again. 2 of the books I bought from Vinted, which is a secondhand marketplace that you can buy stuff from in the UK. And I have quite a lot of books from Vinted, so I'm sure that that will go up. Though a lot of them are BookBox books, and I would put them down as BookBox, I think, rather than Vinted. But we'll see. And then 8 of them were from Other, which basically means I probably can't remember. Then I have the publisher. This is not something that I have any particular goals around, but it's just interesting to me to see which books I read by particular publishers. Obviously, Amazon's skewing things here because of the novellas, but 8 were from Berkeley, which I'm not surprised by. They're a romance publisher, so yeah, makes complete sense that I would have a high number there, but also quite a high number from HarperCollins as well. A lot of these others, these are like romance publishers. Those numbers do not add up to 50, do they? They absolutely don't add up to 50. What's gone wrong with that? I've only realised that now that that's down there. The others will have probably all been like 1s and 2s. Okay, but I need to go back and look at that for 2025 because my maths is not good, but I really don't think that adds up to 100. So I'll have a look at that. But anyway, it's there now. If I get an updated graph, I could just stick it over, which is what I've done a few times, and then I have to sort of tip X around the outside, but I could do that. That's hilarious. Anyway, publication year, which I can see is correct because the numbers are a lot higher. So again, this is not something I actively track. It's just a fun stat to see. And my highest were 2023 and 2024, which I think is good. I want to be reading books mostly that are relevant, but you know, there are quite a few books from previous years I want to read, so I have no issue really with this. And I did a series progress spreadsheet. So I do have a separate tab on my spreadsheet for all of my series, but these are the ones where I made any progress on them in 2024. So this was also very humbling, to be honest, because on my spreadsheet, I have all series, even if I made progress in 2022 or 2023, the years I've been tracking my reading. It was humbling to see where I didn't make any progress on something in this year. But this is how I split up my spreadsheet. So I've just done it in the same way. So these are completed series for this year. Now, I am actually really happy with this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 completed series. It's not great, but I'm actually happy that there's even 10. Then I have series that I'm caught up on. So, you know, that's quite good, I guess. This is where we want to be making more progress, really. So I like to split my series tracker with more layers because it's to just help with, like, I have a bit of choice anxiety, so it's just to help me if I'm like not sure what to read next. I can easily go to the spreadsheet and be like, okay, where do I own the book next? Like, where could I have been making progress? Where I'm in the middle of a series but I don't own the next book. This is not strictly true because I think I could easily get hold of the audiobook for Belladonna. But anyway, series I've soft DNF'd where I think I might not continue, but I might. We'll see. Or especially if I own future books, like with these are the wrong way around. Okay, these are the wrong way around. I was so tired by this point. These are meant to be the other way. But like in the Dreamland Billionaires series, I've read number 1. I don't really want to continue the series, but I already own the ebook of number 2, so I could carry it on. And then series that I have DNF'd, I have listed here, which is not many for this year, but I think that's due to a lack of progress on series this year, to be honest. Then I have all of my books ranked, and I talk about this, well, I will be talking a lot more about this in a dedicated video, so I'll flick through this because it's not particularly interesting right now. Really struggled to fit all the books in, to be honest. We had a real schmoosh on the bottom line. And then on this page, I did all of the YouTube videos that were book related that I released this year. This was really cute just to see all the covers put together. The colouring of them looks a bit dodge. Maybe my printer's losing colour. They've gone a bit yellow, but it was really cute just to see all of my covers together and like see me getting my bookshelves, which was really fun because I got dedicated bookshelves this year and it's so beautiful to see them in the background of all of the covers, to see my reading journal videos. And actually it made me feel a bit better about my channel. I find thumbnails so difficult to do, and I have literally just purchased Canva Pro, so I have improved quite a few of these since getting Canva Pro, but it just made me feel a bit better to see them all together. Then the final page, I actually forgot I had this page when I was going through and adding the flourishes, so I'll do that after this. But these are just my like 2024 awards. So this is just a fun thing. I then had a few more ideas for other awards, and maybe I'll do something better for 2025. But I just have my favourite adult book being Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. What a book. I love it. My favourite YA book was The Getaway List by Emma Lord, which is a very cute book about it's like these two friends who have been friends their whole lives, and then one of them has to move away, and then the female main character goes to visit him and they do like a bucket list of things around New York. We have my favourite middle grade, which is Scandal. I love this series. It's very fun. Excited to read the 4th one this year. My favourite series, obviously I have finished 10 series, and this is not a series I've finished, but I am caught up on it. If somebody asked me overall what my favourite series is, I do think it would be Teen Titans. The first book in the series was one of my favourite for 2023, and I like Starfire. My brother bought it for me for Christmas. I read it within 2 days. I just love this series. It's one I always want to make progress on. I wish that they could get them out faster because they only release like one a year, and I'm just so desperate to know what happens, so I felt that was the right choice. For favourite character, I put the Martian. I've picked Mark Watney because, as I've said a few times before, if you're spending basically a whole book with one person, you have to like them, so I felt he was a good choice. For favourite couple, I went for the couple from A Little Magic by Lindsay Lanza. This is a book I just got from Vinted on a whim because I was buying something else from the same person, and this is such a cute couple. It's a friends to lovers, but also a second chance romance, and we really learn a lot about these characters over the course of their lives because the book flips back between the modern day and their entire lives growing up, so you really know the characters, you know their love story for the whole time, like basically their whole lives from when they're about 9, so it's really cute. And so I felt that was a good choice. My favourite cover is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang because I think that this cover is incredibly striking. It's just, yeah, that this is a book that I think anybody would be caught looking at if it was facing out in a bookshop. And then for my favourite audiobook, I put Daisy Jones and the Six. This is a full cast audio and is just a really, really enjoyable listening experience. And that's it. That's the end. Oh, I've written reading summary there, but I'm not going to write a reading summary in here. So that's it. That is my reading journal for 2024. And I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased that I made it through a whole year. I loved doing my spreads in here. I can't wait for my 2025 reading journal. I'm so excited. As I said, that video is already up on the channel, so do check that out. And also do check out my TBR bingo video as well if you want to see how I'm going to be kind of gamifying my reading a little bit in 2025. I'm so excited to get reading. So I hope that you will enjoy both of those videos. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a like. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe. In the description, I will have that link to the favourites doc so that you can find out about all of the supplies and all the links for everything featured in this journal. I will also have a link to my Instagram and my Goodreads. If you want to check out more content from me, please feel free to follow me, be my friend on Goodreads. It's always really fun to keep up on people's reading in real time, I think. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!